some of the new tall building there, one of them, or maybe two of them on 57th Street, and then we span down. It's called the Rodin Studios. And this looks like a limestone front. And then the sidewalk, with its 200s in marble, is our travertine. Our limestone made from precipitated calcium carbonate at a hot spring. Look at that. You never know. Across the street, we have an old apartment building, name I don't know, beautiful design, but it is made out of that brown sandstone that makes up so many brownstones in Manhattan and Brooklyn and Queens. That rock has been used all over New York City. Sandstone with hematite cement, giving it that reddish color. And I can't really get much closer because of the sidewalk scaffolding. I thought we'd just take a quick look at Carnegie Hall. Some of you may have been here. Famous venue for music, performing arts. The base, the large bases in between the doors are granite. Then you've got these beautiful, thin, horizontally oriented, most bricks are, but these are very thin, made famous first in ancient Rome. Very little mortar between them, and a lot of buildings in New York in the late 19th, early 20th century still use this type of bricklaying. It requires many more bricks, but much less mortar, and it's a much more resilient, resisting weathering facade for a building. Limestone on those arches, not limestone, sandstone around the arches, but two differences. You see there's sort of a creamy one and a gray one. And then I think there's at least two different granites. So that's Carnegie Hall. We are on East 57th, 9. This was a big early modernist skyscraper. And we come down and we visit with the only stone, and we find that the facing here and the facing of the pillars is, once again, our travertine limestone. And I'll just mention that this building, we're on 57th Street, this building goes over to 58th, and it knocked down a building where my mother had her first apartment, having grown up on 86th Street. And so this building's always since seemed a little bit bad to me just because of that. And if we look carefully, we can see the seeds from cottonwood trees floating in the air. And maybe you want to skateboard down this building one day. Well, we're still on 57th, and we're going down a building that's clad in marble, Louis Vuitton. But we're interested in the building on the other side of the street, which is the Bergdorf Goodman building. And it's clad in a very rough marble, very roughly cut, but we can see that it's marble because of its crystalline calcite minerals that are reflecting the light. And you can see that the blocks, which are quite big, have had to be repaired at times in terms of their mortar. A lot of the mortar is coming out, but maybe you can see going all the way up past the security camera, the light reflecting off the crystalline calcite in this metamorphosed marble. Metamorphosed probably during contact metamorphism from a limestone into a marble. And as it is in so many buildings, the base of the building with a little granite apron. In this case, a kind of smoky quartz granite apron. Well, we're going down a little bit further east. It looks like maybe Yves Saint Laurent, or no, Louis Vuitton. Sorry, how could I make such a mistake? We're still in the Louis Vuitton facade. And the reason I'm showing you this, there's no stone so far as you can see, but Louis clearly wanted to have his own signature paving stones, which are fine-grained granite. And you can see little bits of quartz, and perhaps there's some feldspar. The quartz is probably the grayish, and the feldspar the lighter colored, and maybe some mica in there. But I also wanted to just look at this because you can see how this was an igneous rock that cooled from a magma, and you can see how dynamic the melt must have been. It was not static. In other words, there is motion in there because it's a fluid and things are settling out in different concentrations at different rates of solidification. So this is a granite sidewalk outside of the old Louis Vuitton. So here we have what's considered a very important building in the history of New York City, only in the sense that it signaled that the city was open for business in a new way after the 70s sort of depression, recession. The IBM Corporation built this edifice. And you can see it's still owned by IBM. Now let's take a look and see what stone they used. Ginkgo trees, and to the front of the IBM building. Let's go in and look at the stone. And what we discover is that we have another granite. This granite has a sort of greenish hue to it that is polished. You can see my reflection, and we can also see quartz, which is the smoky gray, and feldspar, which is not as easy to pick out of this rock, but there seems to be a lot of biotite. So this is a very high concentration of quartz in here, and with this dark color. So we have the IBM building on the right, and behind me, I'm not sure what it is, but we're looking at now this light-colored building, which when it was built was the Sony building. I think it changed ownership several times, or maybe it was actually AT&T. It was designed by an American architect named Philip Johnson, who very popular in the 1980s. This is built simultaneously with the IBM building, again, signaling New York is back. Big projects are being built. Philip Johnson, well, for someone like me, he would be considered a controversial figure because he, of course, was a Nazi sympathizer in the 1930s, was in Germany, wore a brown shirt, and but then became very popular with the upper-class United States citizens after World War II. So this is his Chippendale, I think it was the AT&T building, and let's take a look at the stone up close. I bet you can already begin to guess what we have here. You're getting good at this, I know. I think this upper one is a little bit easier to reveal. We have got, once again, a nice pink granite, like Columbia, campus granite. We've seen this more than once. And again, just like the Louis Vuitton sidewalk, you can also see how this was a dynamic environment. And actually, this is very sensitive. These two blocks look like they were actually adjacent. If you see this concentration of mica here, and it just follows right through the joint. This is a building that shows you how mortar in the form of caulk already in the 1980s has become essential in building trades. These stones are not as close together as they would have been had this building been built 100 years before. Likewise, they're not actually blocks. They're just thin slabs of granite hanging off of a steel frame. So, granite again. New York, back to life. 1980s.